event ever organized in Griffin Spalding. And so thank you all so much for doing that and being part of this community. It's my pleasure to welcome a special guest today on behalf of the Spalding County Democratic Committee. I'm the chair, in case you don't know. We'd like for you to be involved. And we're going to start having in-person meetings. And I've already had people talking to me about food pantries and that sort of thing. And there's kinds of social issues. Can you hear me okay? Okay. And smile back at me if you're hearing me. It makes me wonder if I'm doing okay or if you're hearing me or not. But we are delighted that you're feeling the pride today because we're all here together. We're all Americans. We're all part of this community. And so we want you to feel welcome and to feel that we're with you. And so I'm going to ask Ben Turner, who is a candidate for Lieutenant Governor, to come and speak to you. He came today. We were having Matthew Wilson, was hoping to be last week and come, but he was not able to come. But keep your eyes on him. He's not, he doesn't have any opposition, I don't think. And so I could say that. And so Matthew's from Griffin, and he's part of the LGBTQ community. So just to let you know that. So Ben is here.
Yes.
As Ben, and running for Lieutenant Governor. Let's give him a great big welcome.
Yeah. Thanks, Sid. I want to say happy Pride. I'm very happy to be involved in the first Pride event in Griffin. I got a lot of family from Jonesboro and Fayetteville, so Griffin isn't too far from my roots. I'll tell you, I'm a fifth generation Georgian. I'm a business consultant and teacher. And my promise to you as Georgians is that I'm going to take your voices, I'm going to take our voices with me to the state capitol in 2023, if all goes as planned. So I want to, of course, celebrate Pride and encourage everyone to support me in the primary next May. And then show up again in the general in November. I'll tell you more about why I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. I'm running to protect education funding. I really care about protecting funding for our students and our adult learners throughout the state. My platform is about ensuring that we have more after-school programs, more summer enrichment opportunities, ensuring that we expand agricultural education throughout the state, and expand art and technical education through co-ops, which are partnerships with private businesses. Because I really want Georgians to, I want them to feel the connection between their training and their education and the jobs. I want them to graduate ready to get hired into the jobs, into the jobs that they love, And I'm also running to promote smart growth land development. And for me, this means that it's time to add a climate change advisor to the natural resource team at the state level. Changing weather patterns are true, and we've got to let Georgians know how climate change is going to affect our communities, development in Georgia, and products that are sourced in Georgia. Expanding Georgia's knowledge of climate change will give us opportunities with products that are sourced in Georgia. And I also think it's time to ensure that we follow through on our promises on public transportation. I'll try not to knock too many departments down while I'm up here. But I'll tell you that the DOT has done 2 feasibility studies on commuter rails from Atlanta to Chattanooga and Atlanta to Charlottesville, and not one thing has come from it. So it's time that we send somebody to the state capitol who's going to follow through on our commitments to public transportation. And I'm also running. I'm running to fight for equitable outcomes for all Georgians. For me, this race is partly about ending the laws on the books at the state capitol that criminalize our youth. And when I say that, what I'm saying is that we got to make it harder. We got to make it tougher for campus police to arrest students. Students shouldn't have to worry that a scuffle or a nonviolent protest is going to get them sent to the county jail. And I'm also saying it's time that we increase in the court system. And the state legislature can lead on this. It's time that we increase the use of drug and alcohol rehabilitation programs instead of sentencing Georgians to prison for drug and alcohol related offenses. Change doesn't just have to start in the court system. The state legislature can act on this in this decriminalization of our youth. And I'll tell you this, I'm running to be next lieutenant governor because working together, I know that we can build a Georgia we trust, and I know that we can build a Georgia we cherish. And I'll tell you, I know something about people working together. Because when my own parents couldn't care for me, my paternal aunt, with the help of my extended family, they took me into their home and they raised me. They raised me as their own son. So I can tell you, when people are working together, we can really do something good. So I'm with you today to celebrate Pride. It's really good to be a part of the first Griffin Pride, and to invite you and join me in this campaign, because this campaign is about making Georgia a beacon for our country. It's time for Georgia to lead on a lot of issues, and we got to send the right folks to the state capitol to get it done. So I'll say this as a Democrat. If you're asking me what's the right thing to do, the right thing to do in these elections is to go left. So happy Pride. And if you have any questions, happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll pass it back to Zachary.
When do we vote for you? November, May?
May the Democratic primary is May 24th next year. May 24th next year.
All right. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks,
All right. So next, thank you for coming out, Ben.
Yeah.
Next, I'm going to have Austin Grant come up.
Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Like I said, like Zach said, my name is Austin Grant. Pronouns he, him, and I'm really happy that this is happening. I didn't know this was Spalding County's first Pride. Honestly, I had no idea. And to be able to be here for that moment is so special, especially when you consider the fact that Spalding County historically has been kind of a backwards little community, and and like Spalding County has been a little backwards, has been a little behind, has never really been been on the forefront of change, been on the forefront of anything. And the fact that we're celebrating this today is evidence of that, which I'm not proud of, but I am proud that this is happening today. So I would like to give Zach, and I would like to give every single person who is here today a big round of applause for helping plan this and to bring history to Spalding County on June 27th, 2021. So give yourselves a big round of applause. And I think one of the craziest things is that this is still something that's happening in our community that people are trying to fight against. Pride is across the country, they've passed anti-transgender bills about sports. They've passed we just had within Spalding County. They're talking about in school systems about not letting transgender kids play in sports. In a couple years, like last year, the Supreme Court just now ruled that sexual orientation is a federally protected category of people by the Civil Rights Act. That's insane. That in 2020, the federal government just then started protecting sexual orientation under the Civil Rights Act.
County was a part of the Supreme Court case.
Yep, in Clayton County, and that case came out of Georgia. So I think we've come a long way. We're making history, but history is still being written each and every day. And the fact that y'all are here fighting and bringing awareness and showing that as members of this community, as allies of this community, and as just people, as just Spalding County citizens, as Georgia citizens, of the U.S. citizens, the fact that y'all are out here doing that is awesome. And I would encourage each and every one of you to continue fighting. Something I've heard before is that social change movements, change happens not when 51% of the population agrees with it, not when 20% of the population agrees with it. When social changes happen, you only need 3.5% of the population to make a change. And guess what? We can make change no matter how big, how small, no matter how well known you are, no matter if you have 1,000 followers on Facebook or you have one. You can make a change. So I would really encourage all of you, get involved in some way. Obviously, we've had members of the Democratic Committee here. I work for the Democratic Committee. But that's not, and we would love for you to get involved and make change within our organization because we want to make sure that our Democratic Party is representative of all people in Spalding County, not just the ones who are lucky enough to be able to participate in politics on a daily basis. But that's not the only way you can get involved. You can show up to city council meetings. You can show up to county commission meetings and show that, hey, I want our county commission to address what's going on in our schools. I want our county commission to address the anti-LGBTQ bills going on in the General Assembly. I want our local government to respond. You can get involved in so many ways, and I would just encourage all of you to get involved in one way after you leave here today to make change in your communities. So I'd like to thank Zach for letting me have this opportunity to speak to y'all, and I'm so happy I was able to be at the first Pride event.
Thank you, Austin. All right, so now I'm going to bring up just a regular member of our community.
Hey, I don't know exactly what to say, except for I'm really happy to be here because it's amazing, and it's for people who are like me, and I never felt more at home, because my mom never did that for me, so I don't really know what else to say.
Tell them about what happened when you told Mom that who you were.
When I told my mom who I was, she cried and said that she was scared that I was going to hell. And she did an exorcism on me. And it was so scary.
And tell them how you overcame that.
I had other people who accepted me, and it made me feel really happy because I don't need my mom's acceptance anymore, and now I know that. Because now I have my sister, her boyfriend, my dad, and my stepmom.
And Kylie.
And Kylie, my sister, to be there for me. And I didn't think I'd be talking to anyone today because I usually don't do this. And it's so new for me. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming up, Rebecca. All right, so next we're going to have Casey come up.
Hello. Speaking loud enough. I don't really know what to say. I just want to just say that as a pansexual woman, I'm not that well educated, and I just want to say that I hope there's something that could be done. In our schools to educate people more on, LGBTQ, all of that. Sorry, I didn't really think that much, but I just want there to be more education in schools so that people like me who didn't really know what they were or what to identify as and so on and so forth can learn that. I don't know what to say. Sorry.
That was good.
That's all. I don't know how to
Thank
get
you.
it out.
You did great.
Thank you.
All right, so next I'm going to have Sharon King.
Hello everyone, my name is Sharon King. I just wanted to come here today to show support for all of you, especially since how brave you are. I mean, my God, your story, like that moved me, and I've never had to feel that. And I just want to let you know that your bravery is the reason why we're here. Your story and your voice is what brings us all together. And speaking of togetherness, I'm proud of the crowd turnout today, and for the reason being that there's multiple pods of people. It wasn't one person and all their friends. It was multiple people and their friends all coming together to celebrate and to recognize struggles and to tell stories of where you're from and who you are. And it's a beautiful story, and I'm so sorry that happened to you. But I really appreciate you sharing that with us and educating us. I greatly appreciate it. So thank you all for allowing me to be here.
All right, thank you, Sharon. Okay, that's everybody except for me, and I've kind of got a lot to say, so I wrote a script because there's some things that I want to make sure I get right. But first, I'll introduce myself. My name is Zachary Exum. I use they, them pronouns. It was only 3 years ago I came out as non-binary, which I do identify as trans non-binary, and before that I didn't even really know that that was an option. Like I never felt normal, but I didn't think I was, say, trans female, and I didn't really know how to feel or how to identify until I met someone, and I made a connection with someone who did identify as non-binary, and when that happened, I was like, oh, that makes complete sense. Why did no one ever tell me this? And that's why I want to do things like this, is because a lot of times people just don't know what the possibilities are. They don't know how to express themselves, and a lot of times the only thing that's taught is one perspective, one way, you know, the cis, straight, which is fine, obviously, but like, things aren't being told to people that are normal and natural, and it leads them down bad paths. And so that's one of the big reasons I wanted to be here today and hold this event together, and I'm really glad all of you came out. But what I want to talk about is, well, I actually want to give a shout out to the Spalding County Democratic Committee for helping me put this on. It wouldn't be what it is without them. And also I want to give a shout out to, actually I'm not sure if any of them are still here. Are you on the diversity?
I'm not.
No, they were here, some of them were here earlier, but I actually do want to thank the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Is that what they're called? I have it written down. Yeah, the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, because just a few days ago, the mayor of Griffin did a proclamation proclaiming that June is Pride Month, which of course June is Pride Month nationally, but that was the first time that the Griffin City Council recognized that, and that was a big deal, and it was all thanks to them for setting that up. But yeah, how can people get involved to sort of help the situation get better? Because no matter what it is, there's a lot of different problems in our community. Even though it's a great community and we're coming together today, there are still things that can get better and get better nationally. Let me find it here. These words are pretty small. So one thing I wanted to point out, which I'm sure you all have heard about, but I don't know how much you know about it, so I just want to clarify and refresh your memories. So earlier this year, our Republican majority state Congress passed a bill that restricted voting freedom. in a lot of different ways, and how elections are decided. That bill was called SB 202, and when it got passed, our governor, of course, gladly signed it behind closed doors, and one of our Democratic congresswomen, Park Cannon, actually asked, hey, can I view the signing of the bill, which is her job to do to represent the people, and she got arrested. They arrested her for knocking on the door. You can look up the video. She's just knocking on the door and they arrested her. She still got her job though, so that's good. But what this bill does is, it's a long list of things. That's why I got this paper. So one thing it does is it halves the time you have before an election to request an absentee ballot and shortens the deadline to return the ballot. It also requires an extra form of ID to request an absentee ballot, which is inherently classist, which means it's also racist and sexist because of our poverty issues. And also, if you're immunocompromised, how are you going to go up there and give your ID? You can do it online, but some people don't have access to computers, when before you just requested it if you were registered to vote. It shortens the length of runoff elections from 9 weeks to 4 weeks. It limits the number of absentee ballot drop boxes that a county is allowed to have, and the boxes now must be inside the building, which if you voted absentee, you know that the Spalding County one was outside. It also makes it to where you can only drop off your absentee ballot during voting days on voting hours. So the benefit of an absentee is that you could drop it off whenever. Now you can only drop it off if you can vote. So if you're working during voting hours, that's too bad, is what the state said, or the Republican side of the Congress says. It makes Sunday voting days optional for the county. The reason that's an issue is that Sunday is the day that most black voters vote on average. Mobile polls, like the buses that Fulton County used for last year's election, were prohibited. It bans anyone other than poll workers from handing out food or water, which when I went to vote in the last election, there was someone there handing out water, and it helped a lot, because even in Spalding County, I had to wait an hour in the hot sun, and there were not enough poll workers to do that. It was a third party that handed out that water. And it also allows counties to use less than previously required amount of voting booths for non-statewide elections. And it also, for absentee ballots, they check them based on the ID information that you write on the envelope rather than your signature, which is a lot easier to mess up, and to me seems like a bit of a privacy violation. And when it comes to how elections are counted, it took the Secretary of State, who is an elected official, off as the head chairman of the state election board, which the state election board is who certifies elections, and instead the state Congress gets to appoint someone as the head of that, and it gave them the ability to, in any local state election board, decide that they are unjust to decide elections, and allows them to appoint a single person for at least 9 months at a time to decide the outcome of elections. It does a lot of other things too, but those are the big points, and that was a lot of points. And there's a lot, that's why it's known as Jim Crow 2.0, because this restricts normal people from voting. It mainly poor people or older people, and also it targets black people as well and other minorities who have some issues voting in the ways that it now limits it to. But I told you all this, and I took all this time because I want you to know that. So when you go out and vote, you don't run into these problems. And you can find all this information online. So make sure your vote is counted. No matter how you vote, just make sure your vote is counted, because there's a lot of ways that they're trying to make sure that people don't vote. Things like this need to be discussed to make sure that people get their voice heard. Also, laws that are trying to get passed to fix this, For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, so you can call your senators about that. And some people may not like this, but I just got to be straight up. There is one out of our two parties that doesn't care about the rights of the LGBTQIA plus individuals, and they must be voted out of office. If you need proof that the Republican Party doesn't, or at least the politicians, don't care about you or your allies, just look up the anti-trans bills they're trying to get passed around the country. There's hundreds of them. And some of them already passed, which is very scary for someone like me who does identify as transgender. Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Mississippi, Montana, Tennessee, and West Virginia have all already passed laws that prohibit trans athletes from competing in sports. Florida's is especially egregious. In Florida, in middle and high schools, if you want to play on a sports team, someone has to inspect your genitalia.
Yeah.
That sounds like state-mandated pedophilia to me. Thank you, Ron DeSantis. I mean, it's horrible. Many states have also banned prescribing hormone blockers to minors. And if you know anything about going through puberty, minors are who need hormone blockers. Like, especially if they're questioning their gender, it helps trans kids to not have to go through puberty and then go through it again. Because if you were to decide to take hormones, you have to go through a second puberty. Hormone blockers do not hurt people. It does not stunt their development, other than it blocks sex-oriented or gender-oriented hormones. Let's see. Oh, the worst one. I had to point this one out because it is very frightening. Tennessee. Tennessee has passed a very special law. It requires all businesses that serve transgender people to put a sign on the window or the door of the business that says, "We serve trans people." Does that remind anyone of something? Segregation was not very long ago. And that sounds a lot like what some businesses had to do to allow people of color to eat there, so that white patrons knew not to shop there. That's the same thing that they're doing for trans people in Tennessee now. And it also kind of reminds me of Nazi Germany, how they made the Jews hang Jude stars so that no one shopped there. And these things are hard to talk about. I mean, I almost talked myself out of not saying these things, because some people may get their feelings hurt, or, I mean, it almost brings me to tears, some of this stuff. I mean, they're erasing trans people. They don't make it illegal to be transgender. They make it illegal to get gender-affirming surgery, or have hormone blockers, or illegal to go out in public without being pointed out, or illegal to play sports. All these different things. It's not making being trans illegal, it's making trans people not want to be trans. It makes it more difficult. It's erasing them. There is a bill in the Senate that is looking to fix some of these things. It's called the Equality Act, and so that's something else you can call your senators about and try and campaign for if you want to get involved. Excuse me. And the other things I wanted to talk about was just getting involved, because it can mean a lot of things, whether it's just putting posts on social media, or coming to things like this and meeting people, or going to city council meetings, commissioner meetings, or going to protests for these things, because one thing that people lack is information. They don't know what's happening. There's a lot of misinformation that tells people lies, and a lack of backlash lets people get away with these things. Like, if you've heard what I said about these laws, and if you want to look it up to confirm that they're real, and it makes you feel angry, do the politicians that represent you know that you're angry? Do the corporations that funded these bills know that you're angry? One thing you can do to get involved is learn what corporations push for what laws, and then stop buying them. What politicians represent you? Because you may not know who your House district representative is, for the state or for the National Congress, or your senators or anything like that, or even your DAs or public city council members. All that information is online. If you don't have access to a computer, you can get that at City Hall as well. Or I'm sure the parties would also give out some of that information as well if you really needed to. But learn who these people are. You can call them, you can email them, Also, you can vote against them if they vote against you, or your friends, or your family, or your community. And I'm sorry I talked this long, but I needed to make all these points very clear that these things are happening, because not everyone knows they're happening. The news doesn't like to talk about these things because it may hurt their ratings. It may make people upset. It makes me upset. Someone has to talk about them. And so thank you for listening. If anyone who didn't get a chance to come up wants to come up and say anything, your story, or some opinion, it doesn't matter, you're free to come up now. Otherwise, we're going to get back to this celebration. Please.
I heard something about some of the states trying to pass a law where the school system also is required not to use the students' preferred pronouns.
Do you know where that was?
I don't remember which states off the top of my head.
Yeah, and when I said there was hundreds of these laws written, I just mentioned the few that were passed. I believe the number right now, when I checked last, was 171 across the United States, and yes, some of them are in Georgia. Most of them won't pass, but they're writing a lot of them to see which ones they can get passed.
Right.
And also let me say, because I ragged on Republicans a lot, and they deserve it, also look up the Democrats you vote for. Not all Democrats are built the same. On some of these bills, there are Democratic senators and representatives that voted for them and helped write them and champion them. Just because they're a Democrat doesn't mean they're on your side. You need to know who these people are and what they believe, no matter what party they're from, and vote for someone who's going to look out for you, your family, and your friends. Thank you. Do you want to say something on the mic? All right. Anyone else have a question or want to come up and speak? All right. Thank you all for coming out. There's plenty of food.